And we're back. We have now one of the top selling series of heads over the last decade, the STX Stallion. So let's string up my favorite head. So let's get into stringing this thing. We're gonna have a little fun. Go with some purple strings, contrast the yellow, maybe a little Lakers theme, even though I can't stand the Lakers. Outside of the plastic string goes through the front of the mesh to that first 9-diamond hole. Then we do our loop start as we traditionally do. Cool thing about the Stallion head is that these sidewall holes up top are actually super big, so you can double side loop them. So I like going around twice, get a double loop start, pull the slack through, make sure nothing's all tied up together, and then we just pull all the slack out, and we have our loop start. For this one, we're gonna do a traditional top string, simple 4-point. So we're gonna do one, skip one here, skip one here, skip one here. We're gonna go from the back of the stick towards the front. So through that next mesh hole, back of the stick, pull that slack all the way through. Front of the plastic, down through. Right? Same thing with the traditional top string. We're actually gonna do that same floating technique we did in the past. Again, top strings, all preference, there's a million different ones, but whether it's considered traditional, anchoring all on the back of the mesh, or with the floating that I'm gonna do here, a sense of traditionalism is actually something I've enjoyed going back to after testing out so many different styles with the top strings. I've just found that either this floating or a traditional one all from the back has always worked. So keeping that pattern going, back of the mesh, up through the plastic, skipping a hole, pull that slack all the way through, back of the stick, through the loop, now back through the front of the mesh. Here we go. One last time, skipping another top string hole. Pull that through. Pull that slack out. Back of the plastic. Reversing that loop. Pull out all this slack. And that's it. One more through the face of the mesh. Now, our reverse loop. Back out the same sidewall hole we started our top string with. Really yank all that out. Loop around, and again, lucky for me, on these STX sticks, we get to really get all the tension out and make sure it stays super secure with a double loop. So that's just simply wrapping through the same hole again, going out the sidewall hole again, starting with that first loop, pulling all the tension out. Now to the second one, pulling all the tension out, and finishing with a nice double knot. I can't say enough about the Stallion. This thing changed my game tremendously. I've tried a million different sticks from every single company out there. I've just always found myself at home with the Stallion. So this one's personal for me. Very, very close ties with this stick. Long connection. So same as the top string. We're gonna start that sidewall with a double loop here. And now, traditionally, we're gonna use our anchor knots, pulling the mesh down to create that channel. So just did our loop start, skip a hole, we're doing a knot. So outside of the plastic in, leave that little loop, up through the mesh, pull that out, over and down through that loop you left. You see it leaves this little pretzel knot, pull the inside, pull it down, get all the slack out, and you are good with your first anchor. Now we're gonna do it again. Skipping one hole, outside of the plastic, up through the mesh, down through the hole. You'll see on that one, my hand kind of got stuck inside of that loop, which allowed me to just pull the string straight out. Gonna do a mid pocket, so I'm cool with 3 pull downs after my loop starts. So 1 more. Outside of the stick, up through the plastic, down through that loop, and pulling all the tension out. Okay, let's grab our next sidewall, get another double knot, and match the other side so we can see where the pocket's gonna shape. Get our double loop. Loop start here, outside of the plastic, up through the next mesh hole from the top string. You don't want to skip any after the top string. Loop it all the way around, making sure nothing's getting stuck in there. Same sidewall hole, double loop it. Make sure everything lays flat and clean. Pull the first one, pull the second one, and we are good to go. Same as the first side. From the back, skip 1 hole, outside of the plastic, up through the mesh, down through the loop. Anchor knots are just something that keep the way they're strung, no matter how you pull it. The tension in them is going to help keep that pocket super consistent. It's just, I've used them countless different knots, different stringing techniques. Knots that are simple, knots that are tight, have always gotten the job done, without fail. Here's our third, tied all the way down. So now you'll see the exact same spot of the head. We are down to the exact same point. So now we can start shaping our pocket. Being that we want the ball to sit in that center part or a mid pocket, we're going to start bunching some mesh, but we also want to allow the pocket to shift up and down. So being in the middle will be the perfect spot for that. Like always, you'll see just with those tie downs, even if my hand was the ball, you'll see we obviously have this channel here. It's something that will help the ball stay accurate, will help the ball come out clean, nice and smooth. And it's an ideal thing for every position. Every stick should have somewhat of a channel. So let's start shaping this pocket. Here, we're gonna start. Let's do some simple ones. Let's bunch a couple up because we want the pocket right in the middle. Again, preference is always key, but you could do doubles, you could do triples, you could do stacks, you could do anything you want, and those are different knots that we'll go over in the future. But right now, I just wanna keep the stick super consistent. I'm gonna do 4 singles in a row. So we're gonna go down through the back of the mesh, outside of the plastic, down through that loop, pull it through, that's 2. Sorry, I'm working pretty fast. Been stringing all day. Down through the mesh, from the back forward, outside of the plastic, leave that loop, down through it, pull all the slack out, and 1 more, here's our 4th. Right, so instead of doing 2 doubles, I just like placing ones or singles, where you only use 1 hole of mesh, tie it down, that way it allows a lot more shifting. So now to match the other side, our singles or ones, we're gonna go down through the back, next hole, do our loop and our anchor, down again, another 1. You'll see as I string, no matter what stick it is, no matter what style pocket it is, as I'm stringing, I'm constantly pushing the mesh, just making sure it's laying flat. Again, in an effort to keep the stick super consistent, we just want to make sure nothing's bunching or getting stuck. There's no tension points that need to be pulled through, no slack left in the strings. There's our 3rd, and then we're going to come down 1 more with our 4th. Tying down, now you'll be able to see before breaking the pocket in or doing literally anything. You'll see that just from our tie downs and now our 4 knots, our pocket is going to sit in that general area in the middle. Breaking in will help. You'll see after we break it in that it's going to get a little deeper. Something I've always said about stringing is that you're going to string the stick as tight as possible without manipulating the plastic. If it looks shallow, it's going to break in, whether you do it right after you string it, which I recommend, or it just happens over time. You want to string your stick to where it's going to stay legal after breaking in. So that's why before we ship our sticks out, we make sure they're broken in properly in our die room, and we go from there. So now that we have 4 stacks of ones right in the middle, super generic pocket, we're going to continue our pocket here, down with another 1. I'm actually seeing that I want the pocket a little deeper, so I'm going to do a 5th one, right? Same thing, back of the mesh, outside of the plastic, loop it through, pull that out. So what I'm going to do here is allowing the ball to shift a little lower. These ones are all tied, so they stay in that 1 spot. Yes, they shift a little bit, you'll see, but for the last one, I want the pocket to be able to shift low, even though it's a mid. I want it to be able to go everywhere. So I'm going to go down through the back of the mesh. Instead of tying it off at this next point, what I'm gonna do is skip a hole, go to the next one, do our loop and our anchor here, tie that nice and tight. So now you'll see on this one, it's able to just move a little bit more. So, pulling that ball through, patting it out with my hand, you'll see from the top of the scoop to the bottom of the throat, we have a pocket that is dead in the middle. So with our remaining string, we have one sidewall hole left. Luckily for this perfect placement of the Stallion, we're gonna put that string through and just tie a knot, nice and easy. Keeping that tension, cycle that through. Same thing, down to the outside. Now we're gonna go inside out actually. Tighter the string is the more consistency. So now, we have a strung Stallion. We see where we're going, we see generically where our pocket's gonna sit. We have our colors that we wanted. We're happy with it, but now we're at the point where we wanna break it in a little bit. Simple, nothing crazy, not really putting in a lot of effort here. The mesh comes in super broken to begin with. Nothing crazy there. Stick strung up, pockets broken in. Now, from my side, we can grab our bottom string. So, for the Stallion on this one, top string, our bottom of the sidewall ended on that last 10 diamond row. What I'm gonna do is just go to the next 9 diamond, go up through it, all the way over, down to the other side. I like leaving the outside hole, so I'll actually go in through the 2nd and the 8th hole, making sure our strings are even, just as I tie them off. Bottom strings, preference, you can tie them off anywhere on the Stallion. I'm gonna go here through the outsides, into the pocket, and then down through the middle holes. Allows the ball to drop back a little bit. Now, if I pull all this tension out, pocket's super shallow. It is broken in, but what we could do, allow a little bit more depth for that pocket to sit a little higher. Fine with me. There's no reason that the bottom string has to be all the way shut. It has to be really long. You can find a middle ground. Again, preference, it's what for you. I think having it at this point gives the pocket a little bit of depth while also being fully legal. To have a stick be legal, it can't be showing the ball from the lowest point of the plastic, which is another video we'll go through. We want to make sure everyone's stick is legal. Don't want to be the guy or girl that gets caught with an illegal stick on the field, because 3-minute penalties are not fun. So bottom strings in. Last but not least, got to keep it clean. Can't go out on the field like a slob. Simple. Grab all these strings, cut them to around our 2-inch mark. Make sure we burn off the tips so they don't fray away. That just gets annoying over time. Again, bottom string and sidewalls as well. I like grabbing them together, pulling them, grabbing them together, pulling them. Scissors down safely. Remember that, kids. Get the pocket out of the way. Burn those strings off. Keeping it super consistent. Don't want these things ever ripping or getting loose. Just becomes an issue. Gets in the way. And there we have it. Here is our mid pocket with a Stallion 1K and a yellow bottom fade with some purple sidewall strings. Here we are. So, if you're interested in getting a stick strung like this, there is no better place to do it than Lacrosse Unlimited. You can go down to your local store or meet us at lacrosseunlimited.com and we can string up any custom stick. If you're interested in content like this, make sure you throw us a like and we'll keep pumping out videos like this. We're doing giveaways on a daily basis here at Lacrosse Unlimited. You got to subscribe to our channel and we will see you on the field.